Aryna Sabalenka has apologized for her comments she made after her Roland Garros finals loss to Coco Gauff. If you're not aware, Aryna essentially said that it was a poor match from her and that Iga likely would have beaten Coco if Swiatek won their semifinal. Aryna said on her IG story, "Yesterday was a tough one. Coco handled the conditions much better than I did and fully deserved the win. She was the better player yesterday and I want to give her the credit she earned. You all know me. I'm going to be honest and human in how I process these moments. I made over 70 unforced errors, so I can't pretend it was a great day for me. Both things can be true. I didn't play my best, and Coco stepped up and played with poise and purpose. She earned that title. Respect."
Aryna Sabalenka just learned a brutal lesson about running your mouth after losing to Coco Gauff at the French Open. Instead of gracefully accepting defeat, Sabalenka claimed her own mistakes cost her the match, not Gauff's performance. She even suggested Iga Swiatek would have beaten Gauff if she'd made the final. Gauff's response was ice cold, and Sabalenka became the laughingstock of tennis fans everywhere.
Literally just won the French Open, and the girl that she beat is having a boo-hoo fest about how Coco wasn't necessarily the better player, but I just made too many mistakes, and blaming it on all these other factors.
Coco Gauff is already a household name. She's already cemented her place in tennis.
In fact, all that backlash prompted Aryna to walk back her comments about Coco by saying this on her Instagram story. In part, and I quote, "She was the better player yesterday, and I want to give her the credit she earned," end quote.
Should players who discredit their opponents' victories be called out publicly? Or is that poor sportsmanship? Coco Gauff winning the French Open was a moment of pure celebration. She played phenomenal tennis throughout the tournament, dominated her opponents, and earned every bit of that championship. When she lifted the trophy, she was so excited that she literally dropped the lid on the ground. That's genuine emotion, real joy from someone who worked incredibly hard and achieved something special. The whole tennis world should have been celebrating with her. But Aryna Sabalenka couldn't let Gauff have her moment without throwing shade.
She won the match not because she played incredible, just because I made all of those mistakes from, like, if you look from the outside, kind of like from an easy balls.
In the post-match interview, instead of giving Gauff credit for outplaying her, Sabalenka decided to blame herself. She said that her mistakes were the reason Gauff won, not Gauff's actual performance. That's the kind of backhanded dismissal that sounds like giving yourself grace, but is actually disrespecting your opponent. When you lose and immediately say it was your errors rather than the other player's excellence, you're basically saying they didn't earn the victory. You just gave it to them through your own incompetence. But Sabalenka didn't stop there. She took it a step further by saying that if Iga Swiatek had beaten her in the semi-finals, Swiatek would have won the final against Gauff. Think about how insulting that statement is. She's standing there having just lost to Gauff, and she's already speculating that a different player would have beaten her. She's suggesting that Gauff got lucky with the bracket, that she only won because she faced Sabalenka instead of Swiatek. That's not just sour grapes, that's actively trying to diminish someone's championship, and exactly what Sabalenka was doing. She's not naive. She understood that Sabalenka was refusing to acknowledge her strength and her performance. So when it came time for the trophy presentation, Gauff made a choice. She didn't engage with Sabalenka. She didn't make eye contact. She didn't give her the satisfaction of any interaction. It was a completely justified cold shoulder that sent a clear message. If you're not going to respect me as a competitor, I'm not going to pretend we're friends for the cameras. The beauty of Gauff's response is that she didn't have to say anything harsh or start drama publicly. She just ignored Sabalenka during the ceremony, and that silence spoke volumes. Everyone watching understood exactly what was happening and why. Gauff was taking the high road while still making her point. She wasn't going to actively embarrass Sabalenka by calling her out, but she also wasn't going to act like everything was fine when it clearly wasn't.
I don't know, I think if Iga would win me another day, I think she would go out today and she would get the win. It just, like, yeah.
I mean, I don't agree with that. I'm here sitting here And last time I played, no, like to ego or anything, but I played her and I won in straight sets. So, but yeah, I think regardless of who I played, I think I had a good shot to win, and I definitely had that belief. And if you ask me, like, honestly speaking to you guys, who I wanted to play, it was Ika, just because I felt Aryna was playing so good, and she was. So, but also Ika is a tough opponent too. So honestly, neither of them would have been a better shot, but you know, it played out how it played out, and yeah, that's why I'm here today.
Then, in her own post-match comments, Gauff addressed Sabalenka's statements without directly attacking her. She made it clear that she disagreed with the idea that only mistakes cost Sabalenka the match. Gauff pointed out that it was her own strength, her own shot-making, her own strategy that won the championship. She wasn't going to let anyone, including her opponent, rewrite the narrative of her victory. She earned that win through superior play, not through lucky breaks or opponent errors. The brilliantly petty part of Gauff's response was when she said that Sabalenka was her strongest opponent. On the surface, that sounds like a compliment. She's saying Sabalenka was tough to beat, acknowledging the level of competition. But in context, after Sabalenka had just claimed she beat herself, it's actually a subtle drag. Gauff is saying, "You were supposed to be the toughest challenge, and I still beat you convincingly." It flipped Sabalenka's excuses back on her and made her look even worse. The tennis community immediately picked up on what happened, and Sabalenka became a punchline. Fans and commentators started roasting her for the graceless comments. Social media was full of people pointing out that you can't claim to be one of the best players in the world and then turn around and say you lost because of your own mistakes rather than your opponent's quality. That's the kind of contradiction that makes you look foolish no matter how you try to spin it. What makes Sabalenka's comments even more ridiculous is that this wasn't some fluke result. Gauff didn't win because of one lucky shot or a controversial call. She dominated the match from start to finish. The score was decisive. The performance was comprehensive. There was no ambiguity about who the better player was that day. For Sabalenka to try to frame it as anything other than Gauff outplaying her is delusional at best and disrespectful at worst.
Aryna Sabalenka has apologized for her comments she made after her Roland Garros finals loss to Coco Gauff. If you're not aware, Aryna essentially said that it was a poor match from her and that Iga likely would have beaten Coco if Świątek won their semifinal. Aryna said on her IG story, "Yesterday was a tough one. Coco handled the conditions much better than I did and fully deserved the win. She was the better player yesterday, and I want to give her the credit she earned. You all know me. I'm going to be honest and human in how I process these moments. I made over 70 unforced errors, so I can't pretend it was a great day for me. Both things can be true. I didn't play my best, and Coco stepped up and played with poise and purpose. She earned that title. Respect. Time to rest, learn, and come back stronger." I think it's good that Sabalenka said at least something, but the main issue for me and a lot of other people was her saying that Iga likely would have beaten Coco in the finals if Iga won their semifinal.
The Iga Świątek comment is particularly bizarre because it's completely hypothetical and irrelevant. Świątek didn't make the final. Gauff beat whoever was in front of her, which is all any champion can do. Speculating about how a match that never happened would have gone is pointless. It's also insulting to Gauff because it suggests she couldn't have beaten Świątek, which is an assumption Sabalenka has no basis for making. Maybe Gauff would have beaten Świątek even more convincingly. We'll never know, and bringing it up serves no purpose except to try to diminish Gauff's achievement.
And when I look at Coco, I had a chance, obviously, to go to Roland Garros. I was at the French Open. She worked so hard every single match to get to the finals. And I just love the fact that she has not only the will to win, the fight to win. What I loved also is how she just takes the high road, no matter what. We all have heard the comments from Sabalenka, her negativity, talking about Coco wasn't better than her, that Coco didn't beat her, that she lost the match because of her errors. But I just want to say, when you mess with the bull, you get the horn. Sabalenka was so wrong. And what I love about Coco is that she can't say anything. But these women have come after her, whether it's been Sabalenka, Iga, Rybakina. They've made comments, even when Coco was actually number 3 in the world. They talked about them being the big 3. So every turn she has to face not just her opponent, but the ridicule from her colleagues who should be supportive. And listen, you're playing against an American who's our top American. Have some respect, one.
This kind of response to losing reveals a lot about Sabalenka's mindset and character. She can't handle defeat gracefully. she has to find ways to protect her ego by reframing the loss as something other than being outplayed. That's a weak mentality for someone who's supposed to be an elite competitor. The best athletes can acknowledge when someone was better than them on a given day. They don't need to make excuses or create alternative narratives where they didn't really lose. The contrast between how Gauff and Sabalenka handled the situation couldn't be more stark. Gauff was gracious in victory while still defending her accomplishment when it was attacked. She didn't gloat or rub it in, but she also didn't let disrespect slide. That's maturity and confidence. Sabalenka was bitter in defeat, making excuses and undermining her opponent's success. That's insecurity and poor sportsmanship. One player looks like a champion, the other looks like a sore loser. What Sabalenka doesn't seem to understand is that her comments actually make her loss look worse, not better. If she had just said, "Coco played great, she was the better player today, congratulations to her," she would have looked classy and people would have moved on. Instead, by making excuses and suggesting she beat herself, she's drawing more attention to the loss and inviting people to analyze exactly how thoroughly she got beaten. She's keeping the conversation about her defeat alive when she could have let it fade into the background. The instant regret probably set in for Sabalenka when she started seeing the reaction to her comments. When fans are making memes about you, when commentators are criticizing your lack of grace, when even neutral observers are calling out your poor sportsmanship, that's when you realize you messed up. But by then it's too late. The words are out there. The damage is done. You can't take it back or pretend you meant something different. This isn't the first time Sabalenka has shown poor sportsmanship or made questionable comments. She has a history of being a sore loser who struggles to give credit where it's due. That pattern of behavior means people are less likely to give her the benefit of the doubt when incidents like this happen. She's building a reputation as someone who can dish it out but can't take it, who wants all the credit when she wins but deflects blame when she loses. The irony is that Sabalenka is a legitimately great player. She's won multiple Grand Slams. She's been ranked #1 in the world. She has the talent and achievements to be remembered as one of the best of her generation. But her inability to handle defeat gracefully is tarnishing that legacy. People will remember the excuses and the poor sportsmanship as much as they remember the victories. That's a self-inflicted wound that could have been easily avoided. Gauff, on the other hand, is building a reputation as someone who wins with class and handles disrespect with composure. She's becoming the kind of champion that casual fans can root for because she represents the sport well. She doesn't make excuses when she loses, and she doesn't tolerate disrespect when she wins. That's the complete package of talent and character that makes athletes transcend their sport. The dropped trophy lid moment is actually a perfect symbol for Gauff's authenticity. She wasn't trying to look perfect or polished. She was just genuinely excited about winning, so excited that she got a little clumsy with the hardware. That's endearing. That's real. Contrast that with Sabalenka's carefully constructed excuses designed to protect her image. One player is authentic, the other is calculating. Fans respond to authenticity. Another layer to this situation is that Sabalenka's comments reveal she might not have been giving Gauff full credit or respect going into the match. If she truly believed Gauff was an elite player who could beat her on merit, she wouldn't be so quick to blame herself for the loss. The fact that her immediate reaction is to assume she beat herself suggests she didn't think Gauff was capable of beating her straight up. That underestimation probably contributed to the loss, and the excuses are a way of avoiding the realization that she was wrong about her opponent. The suggestion that Swiatek would have won against Gauff is also revealing, because it shows Sabalenka views Swiatek as the real threat while seeing Gauff as somehow less dangerous. That's a huge mistake in competitive tennis where any top player can beat any other top player on a given day. Underestimating opponents is how upsets happen, and Sabalenka basically admitted she underestimated Gauff by being so shocked that she lost. The tennis media had a field day with this situation. Articles were written analyzing the shade, the cold shoulder, the competing narratives about the match. Podcasts discussed what it says about both players. Analysts broke down whether Sabalenka's assessment of the match was accurate or just excuse-making. The whole thing became a bigger story than it needed to be because Sabalenka couldn't just take the L gracefully. For Gauff, this situation probably feels like déjà vu. She's dealt with people underestimating her and discrediting her accomplishments her entire career. When she burst onto the scene as a teenager, people said she was just a feel-good story who'd fade away. When she kept winning, they said she was overhyped. When she won the US Open, some people tried to diminish it by pointing to the competition she faced. Now she wins the French Open, and her opponent immediately tries to take credit away from her. At some point, the pattern is undeniable, and Gauff is clearly fed up with it. The best revenge for Gauff is just continuing to win. Every tournament she wins, every big match she dominates, is another piece of evidence that she's the real deal, and people need to stop discrediting her. Sabalenka gave her extra motivation by disrespecting her, which might be the biggest regret of all. You don't want to motivate Coco Gauff by making her feel like she has something to prove. That's how you end up getting embarrassed even worse the next time you play her. The body language during the trophy ceremony told the whole story even before either player said anything publicly. Gauff's refusal to engage with Sabalenka was so obvious that commentators were noting it in real time. Sabalenka looked uncomfortable, probably realizing that her comments had consequences and that Gauff wasn't going to pretend everything was fine. That awkwardness is what instant regret looks like when it's happening live on international television. The lesson here is simple. If you lose, especially if you lose badly, just take it with grace. Congratulate your opponent. Acknowledge their performance. There's no shame in losing to someone who played great tennis. But when you start making excuses and suggesting you beat yourself rather than giving credit where it's due, you look petty and insecure. Sabalenka learned that lesson the hard way, and the whole tennis world watched it happen. What's particularly satisfying about this situation is that Gauff got to have the last word without even having to be harsh or mean. She just stated facts. She played well, she won fair and square, and Sabalenka was her toughest opponent. Those simple statements completely dismantled Sabalenka's excuses and made her look foolish for having made them in the first place. That's masterclass level pettiness wrapped in a respectful package. The long-term impact of this incident is that any future matches between Gauff and Sabalenka will have extra edge to them. There's now history and bad blood that will make their rivalry more interesting. Fans will remember this French Open final and the drama that followed it. That added tension benefits both players in terms of attention and storylines, even though Sabalenka probably wishes the whole thing had never happened. Aryna Sabalenka's attempt to discredit Coco Gauff's French Open victory backfired spectacularly. Instead of looking gracious in defeat, she looked like a sore loser who couldn't handle being outplayed. Gauff's cold shoulder and measured response turned Sabalenka into a laughingstock while cementing her own status as a champion with class. That's what instant regret looks like. Hit that like button and subscribe for more tennis drama breakdowns.